Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. From Cape Cod to Cancun, from Vegas to the Vatican, I'm your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors Breakfast Bankroll. And it's that time of the week where we have our special guest, the Canadian Football League expert himself, Mr. Andrew Mcinnis. Andrew, my brother, what is up today?
Jeff, it is a smoking hot day here where I am in the far east coast of Canada. Looking forward to heading out to the beach in just about an hour or two time after all the hard work is done. How are things with you, man?
We got that heat wave here as well. And for me, I'm about an hour south of Boston. I'm on Cape Cod. It's about 90 degrees with 100% humidity. I mean, I can handle the Vegas 105, 110s, that dry heat. It's pretty brutal. So the ACs are flowing, and hence the long sleeve shirt.
I've got it going. Same thing in my place. I mean, AC. I've got fans everywhere. I'm on the phone with people and they're saying they can't hear me. It's probably because I have a fan going in every room I'm in. But you know what that means? It means it's summer, and I'm not going to complain about that.
Yeah, we'll be talking, later in the year, and you're going to be talking about how, you just got a foot and a half of snow and you're waiting for the next 2 feet, right?
Well, that's just it. People always talk about small talk is always about the weather, but I mean, you're exactly right. When it comes down to you and I previewing a couple things for the CFL playoffs, I'll probably be doing a little more complaining as far as cold weather goes and not as much about the hot weather. But look forward to making a trip up to Mass sometime and seeing you. I actually have a good buddy of mine that graduated from Boston University with a master's program, and he now resides there. He's not coming home. He got a job there, so maybe I'll come see you. We'll watch some games together.
I go to BU 2-3 times a year. Grab my daughters. Love the hockey program up there. I mean, it's amazing. You are right on top of the ice. Witnessed some amazing games there, and that would be something where we catch a BU game on Friday, then head over to the Garden, and maybe catch a Bruins Canadians game after that.
That would be sweet. I'll hold you to it.
You're on. I got you there. Last week, opening week, Canadian Football League, 5 games, and you will correct me, obviously, if I'm wrong. The dogs were howling. And give us the thought process going into the weekend and the results, shocks. Just give us the weekend review and your eyes in the Canadian Football League last week.
Yeah, so like you said, I mean, dogs went 4-0. We saw 3 unders and we saw only 1 over, and that one went way over. So one thing I was right about, I guess, was the totals. I mean, I predicted that going in, that we saw that the defense was far more prepared than the offense, is what it seemed like, and that's what ended up happening. We were able to cash a winner with the first game, so happy to get some winners on the podcast with you, but wasn't my best week. I was probably more high volume than I probably should have been. And the Edmonton Elks, a team that I'm still very high on. What we're seeing a lot right now, Jeff, is that teams that are really solid and well-rounded, they're kind of teasing us as sports bettors because they're marching the field, making great plays. And once they get inside that red zone, they're unable to kind of finish these drives off. Last night we saw it with Calgary. With their game, that was just unbelievable how many times Bo Levi Mitchell, quarterback for the Stamps, one of his worst games of his career, 4 interceptions. But I don't know. I can't even count on one hand how many times he had the ball on the 40-yard line of his opponent and could have worked his way to a field goal and settled for 0 points. So we saw some rust. We 100% saw some rust. And I think that has a lot to do with why the dogs were cashing and the dogs were barking. So for me, I escaped week 1 actually with a 500 record. There are a couple of plays I wish I, could have went a certain way for me. Would have liked to scrape it out with at least, up a couple units. But a lot of learning to be done in week 1, and looking forward to getting in the green here for week 2.
So last night, BC Calgary. As we were scrolling on the bottom here, BC wins 15-9 at Calgary. Calgary closed -7, and the over closed right around 47. I saw some 47 and a hook. Again, dog and under. Talk to us about last night.
Yeah, so last night, I mean, again, like it's kind of what I was just talking about. If I showed you the stat, so I had the over in this game, and this is coming from somebody that's actually recommended betting a lot of unders early on in the CFL season. And for the record, for all of your viewers out there, I'm going to be very transparent every single week when we talk and every day about certain plays. I'm not the kind of handicapper to shy away from that because I want to be able to come on here and celebrate wins with you as well. Look, I had the over, and I'll tell you what, Jeff, if you looked at the CFL.ca stats right now and did not look at the score of the game, but looked at some of the stats from these quarterbacks, you would probably guess that I had a decent shot at this over, and that's kind of what I was talking about with these quarterbacks not finishing these drives. So one thing I want to mention is that they've made the announcement that single event sports betting will be activated in Canada federally on August 27th. That bill was passed just a few months ago. Very similar to what they're doing in America, except for us, it won't be state by state. It'll just be the entire country all at once in one day. The reason why I bring that up is because the lack of information we're getting from MLB, NFL even, but CFL, after this law has been passed, you have to have information out. Sports bettors are getting upset because you have to know which players are playing for props, for sides, for totals. And in week 1, we saw it with the BC Lions where Michael Riley was announced as the starter for the BC Lions. In the stadium, it was announced. 2 minutes later, we see Nathan Rourke go out and take the snaps. So everyone's wondering what's going on. All of a sudden, in the third quarter, Michael Riley comes out. He starts playing. He leaves the game again. Rourke comes in the fourth quarter. Yesterday, all reports all week said that Rourke was the starter. And then all of a sudden, in about 4 minutes before the game starts, the TSN panel here in Canada says, yep, it's reported Michael Riley will start for the BC Lions. Everybody's shaking their head. Sports bettors, sports analysts, people that cover the league. Because all week, you're pumping out articles trying to advertise this young kid is going to start for them. Anyway, long story short, Michael Riley has an outstanding day. 300 plus yards, finding his receivers with ease. He was mobile, looked comfortable. So whatever he did to kind of get his body back and his arms good in 1 week, it worked for him, but it didn't turn into much offense, So I was frustrated as an over better because part of me leaned towards the BC Lions, and I probably would have taken them on that spread if I knew Michael Riley was in that game, Jeff. So that's what was really frustrating for me, was that if I knew Michael Riley was playing 4 quarters of football and he was healthy, I would have most certainly had a +7 BC Lions ticket in my back pocket. But I went with the over thinking that, hey, look, Calgary at home, off a loss, losing to the Argos in week 1, getting upset, they're going to bounce back. And it turns out that Calgary really isn't that team that I grew up seeing dominate the CFL, which is good for the league. I love it. Let's not have the same teams dominate every year, right?
I was following your timeline. I was following a lot of people last weekend talking exactly what you're talking about. I saw it again last night. And here's the problem. As you are, we are in these lanes. We are on social media around the clock. So there's always a conspiracy theory. There's always someone blaming an umpire, blaming a referee. In baseball, we have the option to list our starting pitcher. So if the 20 minutes before the start, if he doesn't start, the bet is voided. You're going to get a lot of shenanigans. You're going to get a lot of people who aren't for legalized wagering, who have always shunned upon this just throw it down our throats like, see, I told you, I told you. They're on the other side. They're on the under, and it just creates such a bad look.
I said the exact same thing that I love that you made that comparison to listing pitchers, because I said the exact same thing. And it does give us a bad look. And what you said is so true, because people that don't care about betting like you and I care about it, like the coaches, like Rick Campbell for the BC Lions, do you think he gives one blank if we know who's starting? He couldn't care less if we know who's starting. He wants to win the football game and have a healthy quarterback out there on the field. But yeah, I mean, if I'm a betting sponsor of TSN, who's the national, it's the ESPN version of Canada, I'm upset because they spent a couple minutes prior to the game talking about his props, Nathan Rourke's props, and the guy doesn't play a snap. And let's talk about his feelings for a second. I mean, not to get too sensitive on you, but I mean, if you're a rookie quarterback from Canada, and they told you all week you're probably going to get the nod, all of a sudden your other quarterback has a great warm up, and you're sitting there to yourself saying, I have to cheer the team on, but in my head I thought I was going to play. I'd be kind of mad. I mean, I'm a team guy, but I'd be kind of disappointed.
And I've dealt with the shenanigans for 20 years with Bill Belichick. It's almost like I was prepped with Bill Parcells. He was always the comedian at the interview, and I loved his interviews. Now, Bill Belichick has taken it a step further, where he just won't give you any kind of information. And for 20 years plus now, the reporters are just trying to dig, and they're asking him questions that everyone knows he's not going to answer. Yeah. And so it is tough. And we're in a situation in the States, and you're finding it as well. It is, we're trying to not be the people that are shunned upon. We're trying not to be the people that are, people are whispering about, or, the I told you so's and stuff. And then to come right out of the gates, and this is happening. It is tough. It does leave a mark, and hopefully, it is corrected.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not going to happen every single week. It's early in the season. There was no preseason. There was a short training camp. There's going to be some injuries, but I'm just happy to be able to hopefully soon go to a sports book and lock in a ticket and get my cash right away, and not having to just bet online anymore. So, the future is bright for Canada sports betting, hopefully, and it all starts with the CFL, because that will be the main sport in Canada before hockey gets back. And oh boy, you can imagine how that's going to be here in Canada when they have legal sports betting for NHL. But look forward to it. And we have a few picks to talk about. I also have a promo code for some of your viewers for some picks if they're interested to go over to Wager Talk. So looking forward to talking about a few games.
Here we go tonight. I'm rated your place, your home shopping, Wager Talk here. I have the Don Best screen to the left of me as well. 8:30 kickoff our time. Toronto at Winnipeg. I did see Pinnacle open this up at 6 - 107. Under over of 48, over -108. Currently seeing 47 and a hook over -109, and 6.5 over -106. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, so Toronto, a team that I talked about last week with you, that is a team that's much improved, made some moves in the offseason. A lot of those moves came on the defensive end. They got some new offensive players, but they have two younger quarterbacks that are both trying to make a name for themselves. We have Bethel Thompson. He's the number one guy right now, as Nick Arbuckle is injured. And look, Toronto, you got to be feeling good about yourself. You upset the Calgary Stampeders, a team that's dominated the CFL for several years. You went on the road and got an outright win, not just a point spread cover, but an outright win. You have to be feeling good about that. But I have to say this as well, and I'm not trying to dismiss what Toronto was able to do, but Calgary just isn't the team that I thought they were, Jeff. So it's not like I'm crapping on Toronto. I'm just saying that maybe that win isn't as great as it might have looked. Because last night, from what I saw again from Bo Levi Mitchell, is that he's missing his targets not by just a couple inches, by a couple feet. So it's an impressive victory for the Argos. I'm not buying into it as much as I might have thought I would. So I'll give you a side and a total on this one. I'm looking at the under in this game, and I look forward to celebrating this with you on Twitter. We'll look at the under, and I'm on the first half, -3.5 for the Blue Bombers. The Bombers played the Ticats last week. Their defense was shut down. Hamilton does have some injuries offensively, but Hamilton couldn't get anything going offensively. They had one great drive out the gate in the game, and as the four quarters developed, the Bombers defense looked great. Andrew Harris is the running back, all-star Canadian player. He's questionable, but it doesn't even matter because Oliveira, he's actually from Winnipeg. He's the second guy, the running back position, stepped up big, had a huge game for them. And that's one thing that's so awesome, Jeff, about taking unders with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Not only do they have a great defense, they're a run-heavy team. And the CFL, people think it's a pass-heavy league, which it is. But if you have a strong running game, it just changes the whole dynamic. So we're going with official plays here. First half, -3.5 for the Bombers, and full game on the under at 47.5.
Okay, so on Saturday, I have two spreads here. I don't have any totals. Let me see here. What do we got here for you? Alouettes, Eskimos. It looks like they're both a 2-point favorites, Alouettes, and then the Tiger Cats over the Rough Riders are 2. I went to that other site that we used last week, wasn't able to pull up any numbers. I don't know if you have any numbers for Saturday and what you're looking at for a go on Saturday as well.
I have to search up what the total is for the Ticats game, but I do know the total for the Alouettes game is 49.
Okay.
That's what I'm seeing right now. But I have a play on the side in that game and potentially on the Tiger Cat side as well. So I'll stick with the totals if that's okay with you.
Sure.
And if we look at the Alouettes and the Eskimos game, the Alouettes didn't play last week. So it depends on who you ask. I keep on using this expression, but if you ask me, I would take the gameplay over extra training camp time because I think you cannot replicate game time in practice. I think a lot of people would agree with me on that. But you also look at what Edmonton was able to do last week, and it was a whole lot of missed opportunities, which has kind of been the theme of this show so far for me, which if you look at some of the stats, and I'm going to pull it up here, it was a 16-12 game. And the funny thing is I watched like the first several quarters and I was at my cottage and I had to go out. It was too nice of a day. I was surrounded by family and friends. I went out to the campfire. So I recorded the game and I'm watching it on my phone while I'm at the campfire and I'm looking and I'm thinking to myself, man, they're in the red zone again. You know, they're making plays. Trevor Harris, quarterback for the Elks, 75% pass completions, Jeff. 333 yards. 33 of 44 passing. Longest pass, 35 yards. The guy had 0 TDs and 3 interceptions. You know, this is a team that I'm so high on. And you look at James Wilder Jr., you look at Darrell Walker, Greg Ellingson, all of these guys that I talked about last week with you, they did what I needed them to do. It's just we saw 3 interceptions, and that was kind of the make or break for my top play of the week last week, you know? So you take away even 2 of those interceptions. Let's give him 1 interception on the night last week, and I get a point spread cover. You know, even if we get 1 field goal and 1 touchdown out of that, and that changes the whole dynamic of that point spread. So my point being is that if Trevor Harris can take care of the ball and the offensive line can protect him, I'm not too worried about the Elks. You know, I had some people asking me, you told us all about, the future. Are you still comfortable with it? I said, of course. You know, it was 1 week. They had a lot of drives. They had a lot of yards. It's just you look at those hidden stats, and I think the big one is pretty obvious, the 3 interceptions. And I don't think he'll do that every week, Jeff. And Montreal, I do think their offense is going to be electric. We look at the reports coming out of the locker room, the reports from all the beat writers I read here in Canada, and it seems like their offense has been, nonstop action. Downfield throws. Vernon Adams looks very comfortable in the starter position, and I just worry about their defense. Their defense, it was hilarious because last year Montreal was a team total type of team. I mean, you just didn't want to get involved in their games on a point spread perspective, because if their team was up by a field goal and the other team had the ball with about a minute to go for a 1 minute drill, I would tell you Montreal's going to lose that contest because they couldn't get a stop. They couldn't stop you and I on offense. So I look towards the over, and I know right now it seems like it's very tough in the CFL to be betting overs. But when I look at these two teams, I look at an Edmonton team that should be anxious to get back and score some touchdowns, because how many times they got to the red zone and just couldn't complete and couldn't convert. It was frustrating on my end. I'm sure frustrating on their end, of course. I'm looking towards the over tomorrow.
You bring up so many good points, and if anyone understands this, you will. How many times have you bet an over, and you just sit there, just explained it perfectly, driving 20-20, driving 20-20, either turnover, no score, field goal. Okay. But when you're on the other side on the unders, these guys are scoring touchdown,
Yes.
touchdown. And it's just so comical. You nailed it. You got the stats, you got the information. They were going up and down, up and down, up and down. Look at the stats. And the biggest part of our business for someone like yourself as well is the overreaction. You got to tell the guys to take a step, breathe, take it all in. I mean, you want to go back to the NFL, look at the Buccaneers last year. That was a team that couldn't get out of their way.
Mm-hmm.
Win, lose, win. Get blown out by 30 at home. Get the bye week, perfect storm, sheet out, and then the rest is history. And you've done your legwork. You've done all the work leading up to opening week. Some dogs were barking. And so you're going to get the overreaction. And that was my next question to you. For your market on this, does it take time for the numbers to, I guess I'd say, recorrect? Or is this just kind of, listen, they usually play the favorites, they usually play the overs, therefore the dogs and the unders will keep barking?
Well, not even just to get into like the CFL odds makers, but just to touch on it real quick, it's been really kind of a nuisance for me from a sports handicapper standpoint, that because of all of the nonsense we've seen, because of no preseason training camp, Jeff, we literally are seeing these odds not come out until lunchtime, the day of the game, where I've been preaching to everybody how awesome the CFL is to bet, because you jump on the openers on Wednesday and you see the number go down or up like 6 points by Saturday, but we're not seeing that as much anymore. So I think the numbers are actually sharper right now than what we've seen. And some people might think that's kind of ridiculous to say, but I think that there's definitely a reason why these odds makers are waiting so long to post these numbers. And I think they know the recreational bettor is going to continue to take these favorites. So they're putting these numbers up high, like Toronto and Winnipeg. I'm not saying it's my favorite bet of the whole week or anything like that. It's my best bet in the long time. I'm just saying hanging a 47.5 with the Toronto team that's improved. They're a stronger team than last year, but I think they assume the general public is going to buy into that defeat that they had over Calgary, or the victory, a lot more than I am, because Toronto squeaked that one out and Calgary just played poor football.
So I was going to follow up on this with you, with these numbers that are not coming out, with the shenanigans, with the quarterback situations. You're starting, oh, no, now you're not starting, seeing the delay in the numbers, knowing that on the 27th that you stated that in August, the single bets all across the country. How are you feeling now? How is Canada taking this all in? And what do you see moving forward?
I don't really have much to give you. I mean, I'm hoping that it turns around. I think that leagues such as the CFL, NHL, Canadian, obviously, dominant sports, they're going to have to be very, very careful and strict. Look at NHL, goaltending. These guys, these bettors, the sharp bettors that people like me trying to give out and recommend plays, we're going to have to know in good time which goaltender is starting, if this player is going to be on this line or on that line. So I think that that's one thing that'll be bothersome for not even just me, for the teams. If you're the head coach of the Boston Bruins, do you care what I think about your starting goaltender and who's starting? Because all you care about is doing your job. And I think that's what's going to bug the pro players and coaches, is that they now have to appeal to us. What do you think about that?
I agree 100%. We were talking the unders, we were talking the dogs, and then obviously in the last 8 days in Major League Baseball, the favorites are hitting it like 75%. They're like on this 65 and 30 run or 70 and 30 run where just 2 days ago again the favorites were 12 and 2, and it's so comical. What is going on, and these are minus 250, 260, 300 favorites. Just box the wire, throw in the run line, first 5 team totals, and then NFL preseason kicked off last night. And again, everyone's got, it's Propville. On social media, there isn't a prop or an expert out there, and I'm being sarcastic here, that doesn't love the over. We had the Field of Dreams last night, and every person had every over, every prop over, and I'm not the most amazing, probably the game of the year, and just the start of the game with Kevin Costner walking through the corn and then onto the field. I had tears in my eyes. I was like, oh my God, well, they did a phenomenal job.
Great.
But overall, it's just, we look, the sharp people in this business, the sharp players look for an edge. And if you give us one little opening, next thing you know, it was a bad line, therefore void. And I think they're just really starting to be over protective, Andrew.
Yeah, definitely. I think that that's the biggest problem, is that right now they're a little more worried. they're thinking a lot more. That's what I'm saying about these CFL lines. That was one of my biggest, to be completely transparent with you, that's one of my biggest advertising pieces to getting people to jump into the CFL and to buy into it with me and to enjoy the league with me, is that you can get a team and you can watch these numbers change. But as you dictated last week, sure, you could look at this number and say, okay, I see the way it's going. I see the way the sharps are betting it. I'll take that. I'll go the way the smart guys or wise guys, the people say. But right now, I'll pull up the same odd screen you just had up. It's been pretty firm numbers. We saw 47.5. It's still 47.5 for this total. So it's good though at the same time, because what I like about it is that you also know that you're not going to give out a number and be like, damn, I could have gotten this or I could have gotten that. You're just working with what you're working with.
Agreed 100%. Earlier this week, we were talking about the EVs and the CLVs and, all the experts, that get those opening lines at 11 a.m. on Sunday. As we're studying NFL, they're getting opening lines at Circa from Derek and the boys, setting the market straight. And then when they're released to the public, the average Joe at Monday, we look at these guys they got 4 and we're getting 6.5, and by kickoff it's 7.5, and then we're shaking our head like, oh my God, how come I can't get that number? And it is comical on that side of the street when we try to do our job, and it's tough for someone like yourself at Wager Talk. Is you're trying to promote a product, and which, listen, I've enjoyed the CFL forever, and it's the great time of the year because we're in the dog days of summer in baseball. NFL and college football doesn't start for another month. Why not real live games? Why not learn about it, find some edges, follow someone like yourself, and make some money? It all cashes the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was saying today on the Wager Talk Today show. People were saying they can't get into the CFL. I said, well, can you get into making money? Because NFL is one of the hardest sports to bet. So
100% agree. Andrew, stage is yours. Give everyone promo codes. Give them where they can follow you. Give them anything where they can sign up, cash some tickets this weekend. The stage is yours.
I appreciate it. I'm super thankful to be on with you here every Friday. All of your viewers, I'll be here talking with Jeff every single Friday around the same time. Yeah, my Twitter, but listed below at Mcinnis Picks. Always tweeting out some funny content, also some free picks, and trying to keep it light. Also, where you can find all my packages, wagertalk.com. Short link is wt.buzz/am. And so at WagerTalk, a 1-day package to get every sport is $39. I'm giving away 3 days for the price of one. If you go to the website wt.buzz/am and you use that coupon code AM39 when you're checking out for a 3-day pass, you'll get that 3-day pass for the same price that you get a 1-day pass for. So it's 3 days for the price of one. I'll be throwing in some baseball action, CFL, a little bit of soccer action. The English Premier League is back as well, so I'm very low volume with that. I just bet totals mainly with soccer, but looking forward to the weekend, and I appreciate you having our Mayflower Sports Twitter down there as well. Unfortunately, when we created the company, somebody that has like 4 followers already had the Mayflower Sports Twitter, so we had to resort to flipping the name backwards. But it's not Sports Mayflower, it's Mayflower Sports, and I host a podcast with a good pal of mine. It's called the Game of Inches podcast. It's not just football, it's every sport. And I've just tweeted out the link to an interview we did with a CFL player. So it would mean a whole lot to me if some of you guys would check that out.
As always, we're super stoked here and excited for Fridays, having you on, talking week in review, weekend recap, and getting everyone ready and lathered up for the weekend of the CFL. Follow Andrew again at Wager Talk, at Sports Mayflower, at Mcinnis Picks. An amazing promo, three for one. Get the weekend with Andrew, cash some tickets. And always remember this here, if you are wagering, always use your head, not your heart. And if you have a problem, just pick up the phone, nice 800 number right there. Reach out to someone. This is the land of opportunity. And here we like to basically, in a nutshell, take it day by day, game by game, unit by unit. And we look forward to seeing you next Friday at the same time. Best of luck, cash some tickets, and we will see you soon.